I'm sorry for the interruption, but could you please unmute yourself? Because the people online can't hear.
Sorry. Okay. So this principle were included into the general principle of community law that are now articles. You find this in Article 6 of the Treaty of European Union. Some other became constitutional or founding principle of the European Union, and are the former. I will show this article later. Former Article 6 of the Treaty of the European Union that now are valid according to Article 2. We have to say that, for example, apart from this consideration, that the community treaties were considered to be constitutional in nature. And if we look in general at international organization, we can find that, for example, some treaty of international organization were considered a kind of constitution. If we look, for example, to the Treaty of the World Health Organization, we found that the statutory treaty is called constitution. Also, the treaty, the United Nations Charter was considered a constitution. Why? Because in the international legal order, we have an horizontal legal. We have all member states are equal, and equal. All states of the international community have equal sovereignty. So, in a certain way, at the middle of the 1950, we had this immersion. That is to say, the treaty that established international organization are like a constitution of international law, and in particular the United Nations Charter. Also the community treaty were considered to be constitutional in nature, above all because there is in the first treaty, that was the Treaty of Paris, that established the European Community and State Community, there was the reference to the term supranational. So the first community was considered as supranational. The main feature of this system was of this system of treaty was to the main goal was the transformation of democratic society for a common European future, and they wanted, as you can read, to carry out a deep political and social reconstruction to the integration of people and the states of Europe. And so the Court of Justice defined the Treaty of Rome as a basic constitutional charter and as a different from international legal order, as well as from the national legal order, because it has a specific legal order, sui generis legal order. And above all, it established that that the European community was a community of law, based on the respect of the rule of law. Now, there are many theories that during the past try to explain this evolution. Now we can say that the European Union legal order is a multi-legal system that is international, composed by international law, European law, and national law, and is a democratic composition of its constitutive elements, and is based on the unity of its legal order and on the diversity of the national legal order. The first step was the realization, as you can read, of the common market. That is to say, the four fundamental freedom, the free movement of services, workers, goods, and capital. But and the main principle that are already the similar principle are the principle of non-discrimination, as well as the mutual recognition principle. These are the two basic principles. And these are the most important principle, because the mutual recognition is expression of the mutual trust of member states on the same legal value, as we will see, as well as on the recognition of the different legislation that exists within national legal order. And so these are two basic principles that are also applied today, for example, in the area of freedom, security, and justice. That is another core aspect of the EU legal order. So this is the preamble in a certain way. The next step was the affirmation of EU values. What was the problem? Was that EU legal order is different from international legal order, is different from national legal order, but above all, the EU law and the direct effect of national legal orders, and affect above all the rights of people, of individuals, and also legal persons. So the problem was that emerged the necessity of the protection of human rights. And this was, I can say in a very synthetic and summary way, that the main promoter, the principal promoter of this was the Court of Justice. Because the member states, and in particular national constitutional court, began to stop this direct effect, started to stop this direct effect of EU law due to the absence of protection of human rights within the EU legal order. So the Court of Justice elaborated the well-known jurisprudence sources of, as you can read, the general principle of community law, thus affirming the protection of fundamental rights into the EU legal system. The court recalled the sources of international law as well as the national constitutional system, and decided that these are objectively common principles of the community system. This is, for example, some other decision case law of the EU of the Court of Justice. And the court recalled the constitutional tradition common to member states as well as an international treaty. What is the result? What was the result? The result was that the Court of Justice established that the international treaties, for example, the European Convention on Human Rights, was already adopted within all the member states. And so this represented a common basis from which guarantee the respect of human rights. The similar look at the constitutional tradition of member states and establish that there are a kind of a hard common principle that you can find also in the national constitution. Why? We can say that the protection of human rights are first of all in the national constitution. Then all the international documents concerning the protection of human rights come after the national constitution. So it says, I can find the sources in the constitutional legal order of the national state, as well as because states has already ratified the European Convention of Human Rights, as well as other international conventions on the protection of human rights, I can find within, how can I say, a European public law where I can establish that I can apply. Okay, because usually the European Court of Justice can apply only what your law, but it says no, because I can apply also the principles that are included in the national constitutional order, and above all, because the member states have ratified International Convention on Protection of Human Rights, I can apply also this principle because there is a common principle. These are common principles. Guys, I don't know if is it clear. And so the court arrived to the so-called unwritten common principles of EU law. And the protection of fundamental rights was for the first time recognized in the Treaty of Maastricht, within the Treaty of Maastricht, that introduced Article F. As you can read, the Union shall respect national identity, that is, as I told before, unity, but also diversity. As well as the Union shall respect fundamental rights as guaranteed by the European Convention for the Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedom, and they result from the constitutional tradition common to member states as what are the general principles of community law. But we are at the protection of human rights. We arrive to the formalization of a rule that established the protection of fundamental rights. We do not arrive yet to the EU value, to the founding principle. These arrive thanks to the and in a certain way, we can say that, this article that you can read, Article F of the Treaty of the European Union, introduced by Maastricht Treaty, formalizing the case law of the Court of Justice. Is a formalization of the case law of the Court of Justice. But then we have a problem because there is what? The lack of EU democratic legitimacy of the European Union. Because we can say that already exists, because the European Union is not a state. But there was the necessity to found European Union on some fundamentals, some founding principles. And this arrived thanks to the revision, to the next revision with the Treaty of Amsterdam. The Treaty of Amsterdam, in fact, introduced paragraph 1 to the Article F and established that the Union is founded on the principles of liberty, democracy, respect for human rights and fundamental freedom, and the rule of law, principles which are common to member states. Why these are founding? Because these are the basis of all legal system, of all member states' legal system. In this way, they are founded. They found the European Union. And the Treaty of Amsterdam introduced also a sanctioning mechanism in the case of the serious or persistent breach by member states of this principle, included in Article 10. The Treaty of Nice, that is the next treaty, established that modified this Article 7 and introduced also an early warning system in the case of a clear risk of a serious breach by a member state of this breach. I want to anticipate that this mechanism was considered, was taken in consideration in different situations, in the case of Poland, in the case of Hungary, in the case of Romania, but it doesn't never applied at the moment. That is, the procedure started. Also, several years ago, concerning another member state, Austria. But has never been applied. So the next, which is the current situation, and I think that you already know this, the Treaty of Lisbon. The Treaty of Lisbon established, according to the Treaty of Lisbon, the principle of Article 6 are now 6 paragraph 2 are now the value of the European Union. So what I explained is the Union is a fund on the principle. Now this part has been changed, but is now Article 2 of the Treaty of the European Union. On the contrary, the protection of fundamental rights and the reference to the European Convention, to the national, to the constitutional tradition of member states, as well as the European Charter of Fundamental Rights, are now in Article 6. So the Treaty of Lisbon, the member states decide with the Treaty of Lisbon to divide. The general principles are now included in Article 6 concerning the protection of fundamental rights. The funding value are included in Article 2 of the Treaty of the Union. And this is Article 2. I imagine that you already seen this article. Some professor showed you. And this article now say Union is founded on the values of respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, including the right of persons belong to minorities. So if we look also to this sentence, we can say, come back to that is different in the former Article 6. We do not have the dignity, the reference to dignity. We do not have the reference to minority, the respect of the right of minority. But above all, the article explained that these values are common to the second sentence, say that these values are common to member states in a society in which pluralism, non-discrimination, tolerance, justice, solidarity, and equality between women and men prevail. So we have two different sentences with two different lists. So there is a debate currently. There is a current debate in order to define whether the fundamental value of the European Union are only the first sentence, are only which included in the first sentence, or also which are included in the second sentence. Above all, for example, another debate concerning before the nature of this value. Are value legal, or are value, for example, belong to ethics? Because for some of them, tolerance is not exactly a legal value. I know that I know that some professor spoke explained to you the judgment of the European Court of Justice concerning, for example, the case, the infringement procedure against Poland. And because in this case, this last case that concerned June 2023, so the last June, the European Court of Justice stated that EU values are legal values. They establish obligation that the states are obliged to respect. They are not valued in the sense of ethics or in the sense of a moral obligation. They are binding for member states, and they must respect these values. But we can say that there is an asymmetry that emerged between the values indicated in the first sentence of Article 2 and the values in the second sentence. Above all, concerning the approach of the European institution, as well as the approach of the European Court of Justice, because all the practice, all the case law concern the rule of law, and not the other principle, the other value. But we can say that, sorry, as we will see, very brief, that these are as in the interpretation of the Court of Justice, they oblige member states. They are a criteria to be a member and to remain as a member within the EU legal order. So it is not only a condition for adhesion, but is also a condition for member states to be member. But at the same time, we can say that there aren't effective instruments to protect this value at the moment. I move to the second point, and then I will come back, which is the third point of my presentation, concerns the rules for membership. Which are the rules to become member? Also, these are rules changing during the revision. The first article are, as you can read, Article 98, Article 237, and Article 205. These are the rules for membership within the European community. And these, in general, establish that any European state may apply for membership. But the term European has not been considered in strict geographical way. For example, Turkey is a candidate state, but a great part of Turkey was in Asia. So we cannot consider exactly the adjective European as intended in a strict, narrow geographical sense. This is the first formulation of the Article 237, and we say that any European state can apply and to the Council that asked the opinion to Commission shall act at an unanimous vote, and then there is necessity of a treaty among the member states and the applicant states. The next version, that is Article O, that was introduced by the Treaty of Maastricht. That was the first treaty that changed this article, as well as we had also another treaty revision before the Treaty of Maastricht, added the assent of European Parliament, which shall act by an absolute majority of its component members. And as you can read, the admission of the new member needs the modification or the amendment of the treaties. On these two legal bases, we have these waves of EU enlargement. The first with Denmark, Ireland, and United Kingdom. As you well know, United Kingdom is not yet a member of the European Union. Then of Greece, Portugal, and Spain, Austria, Finland, and Sweden. Then we have another change. Well, when the Treaty of Amsterdam introduced the paragraph 1 to Article F. As you can read, any European states which respect the principles set out in Article F, paragraph 1, may apply to become a member. And Treaty of Amsterdam established a numbered Article O in Article 49. And on the basis of this article, we arrive to the current composition of Europe, that is to say, the most bigger enlargement to the Eastern and Central Europe countries, and the latest enlargement to the Croatia in 2010. What happens with the Treaty of Lisbon? The Treaty of Lisbon, this is the new formulation of Article 49. That established any European states which respect the values referred to in Article 2 and is committed to promoting them may apply to become a member of the Union. We have always the reference to European states, any European states. Then, but we need that these states respect value in Article 2 that I showed before, and the other condition is that the obligation to promote them can apply to become a member. So we have Article 49 in connection with Article 2 and with the obligation to promote this value. The other introduction of the Treaty of Lisbon was that European Parliament, as well as the national parliament, must be informed. That is to say, any application must be notified also to them. And then, as you can read, the third point, the condition of eligibility agreed upon by the European Council shall be taken into account. Because this article formalize the practice that was put in place by the member state, by the European Council, that is to say, so European Council are member states, in order to the enlargement to admit new member states. And so on the basis of this article, which is the situation? Okay, Turkey is a process to meet its application early, respect very early in the middle of 1987. If I don't remember exactly the date, but probably in the 1987. But achieved the candidate status only in 1999. That is to say that it's in some way respect the three conditions only in 1999. But the negotiation with Turkey now are stopped because Turkey has a regression concerning the respect of human rights. So the negotiations are stopped. The other states are the Western Balkan states that are, first of all, Western Balkans are a conventional name that was attributed by the European Union. If we speak, because I work with them, they do not like very much this qualification. Because, for example, Albania, as some of the guys that are connected can say that Albania is not a real Balkan state. And as an history of Albania is totally different. As well as also Romania and Bulgaria are Balkan from a geographical point. But in order to, how can I say, to divide the position of the Balkan respect to the East, the EU institution decided they are Western Balkan. And as well as in order to distinguish them from Central and Eastern country of Europe. Because the processor, the accession is not exactly the accession processor, but in a certain way, the process of cooperation with the Western Balkans start at the end of the 19, that is to say 1999. So it's a very long, it's a very far, a lot of time, not so, it's a very far process, it's a very long process. North Macedonia achieved the candidate status since the 2005. Montenegro since 2010, as you can read, Serbia 2020, Albania 2014, Bosnia and Herzegovina, very 2 years ago. But which is the situation? When you achieve the candidate status, it does not mean that we start with the negotiation. because you have to overcome another step. That is to say, after a state achieves the status of candidate, the Commission starts the screening procedures. The screening procedure is, in a certain way, the evaluation of the national legal order. The screening of the Commission evaluate that the national legal order are compatible, or in which way is compatible with the EU law. That is to say, the EU acquis. And which are the steps that these member states, these future of this candidate state must implement to adapt its national legal order to EU legal order. At the end of this screening procedure, we have another decision by the European Council that, with the unanimity, established that the negotiation can be opened. So at the moment, we have that Serbia and Montenegro started negotiation procedure, but only few chapters was opened, because in order to verify the implementation by national legal order of EU law, the chapter EU law is divided into 35 chapters. And these chapters are open. Each of them must be open. At the moment, with Serbia and Montenegro, maximum 3 or 5. I think that Serbia was 5 chapter and Montenegro are still, and some of them are closed, but only provisionally, are not definitively closed. With Albania and North Macedonia, the European Council adopted the decision to open the negotiation, but now we are only in the preliminary dialogue of negotiation. Bosnia and Herzegovina received achieved the candidate status after Moldova, Ukraine, and Georgia. Because, as you well know, after the war aggression, the Russian aggression, the Ukraine submit on 24 of February 2022 the application to become a member. Then in March, Georgia, Moldavia, and Georgia. In June 2022, during this period, the Commission adopted its opinion concerning the respect of the 3 conditions that I explained to you concerning Article 49, that is not yet European states, because if you want, I can tell you something about this, but it's not so important because Georgia, Moldavia, and Ukraine are also members of the Council of Europe. So it's not exactly in geographical sense. But the 3 conditions that are the value of Article 2 and the obligation to promote this value. As well as the condition of eligibility agreed by the European, that are these. Because when the European Union prepared to the bigger enlargement, what is considered big bang enlargement, that is to say, the enlargement after the end of the Cold War and after the fall of the Berlin Wall, the European Union decided to reunify Europe, and decide to open to the accession of the Eastern and Central Europe. European country. But in order to guarantee the respect of EU value, EU acquis, EU legal order, the European Council of Copenhagen established the so-called Copenhagen criteria. I don't know if you have already heard about this. And these are three main criteria that are: the first is political criteria, the second is economic criteria, the third is legal criteria. I forgot to add another criteria, but probably these are not the final version of my presentation, because I prepare very quick this morning, so I did not have much time. But is the capacity of the European Union to absorb, that is to say, to integrate new member states. So the first criteria are political criteria. Which are political criteria? That is the stability of institutions that are able to guarantee what? Democracy, the rule of the law, the respect of human rights, the respect of protection of minorities. The second criteria, and these criteria, political criteria, are EU values, are what I explained before as EU values. That is to say, the guarantee that these founding values remain, are guaranteed, are protected in some way. The second, what is the common market? Because the heart of the European Union are the market, the common European market. And so the guarantee that the new member state can have a functioning market economy, and as well as can respect the rule of concurrence, of legal, of a fair concurrence among the member states. Why? In order to guarantee the free movement of goods, services, capital, and not workers, but citizens, as well as persons in general. The third criteria is the legal criteria. That is the candidate ability to take on, to respect the obligation of membership, and in some way to respect all the EU acquis. That is to say, all the EU legislation in each policy of the European Union. So a very big. So agriculture, as you can know, as you can, I think that you are hearing about the protests of all the in all Europe concerning what the common agriculture policy, the PAC, the so-called PAC, in the field of fisher, in the field of how can I say, commercial trade, because EU legislation, you find the EU legislation in each the protection of consumers. Tell me some other. If you want, you can read the index of the treaty of the European Union and function of the European Union, and you find each kind of possible legislation. And the fourth was the capacity. I forgot to write this. The capacity of the European Union to integrate, to absorb. Why? Because a new member means an amendment of the founding treaty. Because I have the new member in the institution, so new representative in the parliament, new representative in the commission, new representative in the council. We have new problem for the deliberative procedure, and above all, and this is one of the main problems, new beneficiaries of EU funds, and this is one of the main problems of the enlargement. So the current situation established that all these member states, not all, but as the candidate status, because it respect this aspect, not so, not completely, but they are, in a certain way, they are moved toward this respect. They are adapting their legislation, they are reforming their legislation, their legal order to comply with these criteria. And Moldavia, as I told before, Ukraine submitted the application in February, Moldavia and Georgia in March. The opinion of the Commission concerning the respect of these or the achievement of these was adopted in 3 months. In fact, in June 2022, the European Council decided to recognize to these 3 states the candidate status. As a consequence, in December 2022, also Bosnia and Herzegovina achieved the candidate status. That is to say, the European Council decided to recognize candidate status to also to Bosnia and Herzegovina. I didn't arrive Kosovo because Kosovo as a not candidate status is the 6th Western Balkan states, but Kosovo has a not candidate status as only potential candidate status. Because it's not recognized by all EU member states. This is the main problem, and above all due to the not so friendly relationship with Serbia, because there is a problem with the relationship with Serbia. You have a question? Oh. Do you want to do you have you a question? No? Okay. How does the European Union promote the respect of values in candidate countries? But establish some precondition on the basis of our Article 49 and 2. I say that are preconditions because if you look at the practice of the enlargement and the procedure are so complicated that the first step are the precondition. Then we have the condition, and then we have the possibility to the opening of negotiation. Each of these steps needs the unanimity of the European Council. And for example, for a long way, Macedonia, as I showed before, applied in 2005, but had a long road because first we had a conflict with a dispute with Greece concerning the name. Because before the name of this state is not Republic of North Macedonia, but this state had to conclude an agreement with Greece to establish the new name. After the Greece, North Macedonia had a dispute with the Bulgaria concerning the history of this state. And as a consequence, also Albania, that was connected for enlargement to North Macedonia, was stopped. Because another characteristic of enlargement is that the EU institution prefer to cluster member state, to create some small group. In fact, if we look before, apart from the case of the Greece and the latest one of Croatia, all the enlargement are based on a group of 2 or 3 states. They prefer to move with the small group. And in this case, Albania was connected to Macedonia, to North Macedonia, and so also Albania was stopped to this dispute with first Greece and then Bulgaria. Ukraine, at the end of this year, the last year, that is to say December 2023, Moldavia and Ukraine achieved the European Council decide that Moldavia and Ukraine are ready to open the negotiation, to open the talking, not the framework for negotiation. Not Georgia, that achieved the candidate status only in December. Probably before I did so, the candidate status was recognized, to Moldova and Ukraine in June 2022. Georgia achieved this candidate status in December 2023. Contemporarily, on December 2023, European Council decided to open the talks for negotiation with Moldova and Ukraine. That is to say, establish that they are ready to start. And I don't know if you hear about this, that Hungary at the beginning put it a veto concerning Ukraine. Why? Because he says Orban says that Ukraine did not satisfy the precondition. That is to say, this Article 49 and Article 2. Because this precondition concerning the respect of the rule of the law, independence of magistrature, if you look to the criteria now I explain, the Ukraine, in the opinion of Orban, Ukraine does not respect totally this precondition. But we have to say that we have not only the Copenhagen criteria, we have a lot of criteria that was added during the time. Because European Council, if you look in fact to the article does not say, criteria, Copenhagen criteria. It says the condition of eligibility agreed upon by the European Council shall be taken into account. That is open criteria. In fact, since the Copenhagen Council, the European Council added a lot of criteria. That is to say, the administrative reform of the member states, the respect of not only democracy, but the capacity of member states to implement reform, democratic reform, and so on. And above all, establish the so-called benchmark that each state must achieve in order to move to the next step. That is to say, a very complicated process. So we do not have only Copenhagen criteria, but we have additional criteria. Above all, member states, because European Council represents member states established a new enlargement methodology that was applied for the first time with the Western Balkans. The first state was Croatia. The real first state was Croatia, but we can say that new enlargement methodology was adopted in 2020, so concerning Western Balkan states. And this new enlargement methodology gave great power to member states, as well as established that Chapter 23 and Chapter 24, that is to say the chapter concerning the respect of rule of law, justice and human rights, must be opened before, at the beginning, that is to say the screening procedure that I explained to you, and must be closed at the end of the procedure. Why? In order to guarantee that member states achieve the benchmark. because you have to consider that this state, that is to say, Central European and Eastern state, have not only different legal culture, has a different approach to the public management, to the public organization. And one of the main aspects concern the fight against transnational crimes, above all the fight against corruption, the independence of magistrature, the guarantee of the independence of magistrature, the reform of the public administration, the training of policy, of police, no? And these are considered in some way, these are the new methodology, and the promoting of EU values consist in monitoring their compliance with the, in particular, rule of law. But what means rule of law? Rule of law is a very complicated concept. Why? Because it includes, we can say that is a formally, but is also substantial. It is in some way the respect that all public power are exercised in the respect of the rule, but is also based on a collection of rights. What I want, according, for example, to the report on the rule of law adopted by the European Commission, that is recalled the Venice Commission. The Venice Commission is a commission within the Council of Europe. As you well know, the Council of Europe is another European organization that promotes the respect of the rule of the law, of the rule of the law, as well as the respect of human rights, because within the Council of Europe we have what? The Court of Human Rights, the European Court of Human Rights, as well as we have the European Convention of Human Rights. And so this Venice Convention and this report established that the rule of law is not only a formal concept, but also as also substantial material concept. And what it includes? Legality, including a transparent, accountable, and democratic process for adoption of law. Legal certainty, that is to say that I must know the law. I must the legal certainty, the prohibition of arbitrariness, the access to justice before independent, impartial court, including judicial review of administrative acts, respect for human rights, non-discrimination, and equality before law. That is to say, it refers to a principle of governance in which all persons, institution, entity, and public and private are accountability, can be responsible of their operation, and which are the system in which are respect human rights. If we consider that within the EU legal order, we do not have, because we have some instruments, for example, I told before the Article 7 for the protection of EU values, and in particular the rule of law. But as I told, it was the procedure was started, was open, but has not been concluded. The Commission adopted a framework for the respect of rule of law, the 2014 rule of law framework, as well as we have some regulation. For example, the regulation concerning the protection of budget. The name is a general regime for conditionality for the protection of the union budget. So, if we do not have within the EU legal order instrument to protect this value, how can we protect, or how can the EU promote this value in the candidate states? The answer is that we have two instruments in particular that have been adopted. The first is the come si dice, rinvio pregiudiziale. They refer to the case of the European Court of Justice. The review procedure, I don't remember. One is infringement procedure. The other is the possibility of national judge to refer the question to the Court of Justice. That is to say, vedi un attimo come si dice, so I don't remember exactly in English the translation. And the other, yeah? Preliminary ruling, sorry. So we have two judicial instruments that are preliminary ruling within the legal order. We have preliminary ruling, and it has been adopted several times. I think that some professor in the previous lecture explained to you this system, as well as we have infringement procedure in order to adopt a sanction against member states that do not fulfill with this value. But it's not a general situation, it's not the general remedy. The remedy was this regulation, that is regulation 2020, adopted 2020, the number is 2092, that concerned a general regime of conditionality for the protection of union budget. What is this? That is to say, do not respect your state, does not respect rule of law and other EU values. Okay, you do not have EU funds. EU funds are suspended. That is strong, as you can read, economic conditionality. Strong economic conditionality. This has been adopted within EU member states, and as I know, also with in the relation with the third states. European Union, in all, for example, international treaty with other states, with the third state, introduce some rules concerning strong economic conditionality. You must respect human rights, you must respect your law, and so I support you economically. And this is, but which is the problem of this system? That is connected to the protection of the union budget. So it's not easy to demonstrate that each violation is in some way connected to the union budget. But this regulation has been applied concerning to Hungary. But Hungary put it in place a lot of violation of EU law, concerning migration, concern respect of human rights, concern a lot of violation. But the application of this regulation was based on the appalti, that is public competition.
Public procurement. Public procurement.
Public procurement. Okay, because it's in some way connected to the EU budget. But, for example, Hungary has also a lot of problem with the judiciary, with independence of the judiciary. But it's difficult to connect the protection of the budget to the violation of human rights. With the candidate country, the situation is similar because, as you can read, we have what? These. I will try to open. If we look at this regulation, instrument of readjustment assistance is an economic regulation, is a regulation that establishes economic support, establish a strong conditionality, economic conditionality. That is to say, if the candidate state does not comply, with the respect of the rule of law, they do not achieve, they do not can use EU funds. And But in the case of a candidate, the situation is more difficult. Why? Because they are in the lower position, in the difficult position. And another instrument is the reversibility of the process. That is to say that we go towards the EU membership if you respect. If you do not respect, we go back. And so some say that this is a very fatigue, a very strong. And in conclusion, is that the promotion is this value is a policy that the European Union applied with the member state, with the candidate state, as a kind of a policy of stick and carrots. Stick and carrots, stick and carrots. And the situation in some way changed, thanks in some way to the new application of Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldavia, that in some way bring with them the Western Balkans. But if we consider that at the beginning, the process of enlargement towards Western Balkans started in 1999, and now we are in 2024, I can say that the people of Western Balkans are very, how can I say, they do not believe, or they do not in the EU enlargement now at the moment. They are they do not trust in this possibility at the moment. So in conclusion, I don't know what our colleague from our guy from Western Balkans thought, but they think. But I want to finish because if you have any question. So in conclusion, we have an internal disunity because member states the rule are also the unanimity rule, and member states do not agree about. Member states do not agree about what they what are the border of the European Union, and above all, what could be the solution for the new enlargement. The idea that is putting in place is a gradual integration. That is to say, the possibility of these states to be included in some policy of the EU. You have to consider that all these states have associated agreements with the EU. For example, with Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldavia has a deep association agreement. We have the visa liberalization, as well as with the Western Balkan country. So they are already integrated in some policies. The other question, the other possibility that is on the floor of the EU agenda is the reform of treaty, because new enlargement need new amendment of the treaty. So there is a proposal, a report adopted by French and German that propose some solution concerning the future enlargement of the European Union and admit the possibility of create different. We start from European Community. For a long period, we had European Community and EU law. The Treaty of Lisbon delayed community because established that the European Union succeed to the EU community. The idea is to not to go back, but to create a new European political community that is, how can I say, a large circle of all member states, but with a different kind of integration. I finished, so you can. I also see a question.
That's what President Macron.
Yes, me. Yes.
But in that scenario, Would some countries even consider countries that are way outside of Europe but are European culture like Canada or Australia, for example?
No, no, is it not? I think it's not a possibility because several years ago, probably when Turkish submit the application, also Morocco submit application, and the European Council excluded this possibility because the problem is not still geographic, but is a common and in the sense of common background. Canada and the United States, I can say that is a Western, but is geographically too distant. But there are a lot of cooperation within but in the can I say in the framework of external action of European Union, not in this sense. So I think is not possible, but is it possible the idea to include some other states, for example, in the latest document, for example, in a resolution of the European Parliament, the European Parliament says that also Armenia could be member. If you look, we have European Union of 27 states, but we have a Council of Europe of 40, I don't remember exactly, I'm not so with the numbers, but Kyrgyzstan, many states of post-Soviet Union are included in the Council of Europe. So it's not excluded the possibility of a differentiation. This is an example of external differentiation. We have a lot of internal differentiation within the EU legal order because we have Schengen area, we have Euro area, we have area of freedom, security, and justice. We have a lot of differentiation. This is an example of external differentiation, but how can I say? The solution depends also from the next, not only the reform, but also the next election. Because in the next June, we will have the European, the election to the European Parliament. So this is an important cornerstone at this moment. There is also a question, please, Bart, no. But
Yes, thank you very much. The presentation was very interesting.
Sorry, wait a moment. I closed the presentation in order to show you to your colleagues.
Okay.
So
thank you for the presentation. It was very interesting. I'm from Kosovo myself, and we fulfilled the conditions for visa liberalization in 2018 and just got it in 2024. So the rise of Euroscepticism is in fact true here. Can you hear me?
Can you repeat? Yes, but speak slowly because I don't hear very well.
Oh, okay. I was just affirming the truth about what you said about the rise of Euroscepticism in the Balkans. But I'm a political scientist, and I wanted to add a political question, if that would be okay. Because as we're aware, the EU has bombarded its eastern region with integration policies such as the neighborhood policy, the deep and comprehensive trade agreement, the Eastern Partnership, association agreements, and Russia has in fact not liked these and sometimes even counter-reacted with things such as the Eastern Asian Economic Union, or even infiltration or helping areas of these countries secede from their countries, as we've seen in Georgia and as we see now in Ukraine. What I wanted to ask is if the EU's movement towards the east with Moldova, Ukraine, and Georgia does in fact endanger these countries.
Okay, I didn't have much time to explain in very detail the enlargement policy. Because enlargement policy, before we have to distinguish before the end of Cold War, before the fall of the Berlin Wall, and after. Because after these, after the end of the Cold War and the fall of the Berlin Wall, the enlargement policy became a strategy that connect, how can I say, connect foreign and security policy and the partnership with the neighbors countries, and became a geopolitical strategy of the European Union. If we look to the period, the first enlargement that I show you, no, the first, that is to say, to Ireland, Great Britain, Greece, Portugal, we have a totally different approach to enlargement. It's like an admission. Like as I told before at the beginning of this lecture, similar to other international organizations. After the end of the Cold War and with the war in the former Yugoslavia, as well as the Union, the fall of the Soviet Union. The approach of the European Union changed totally, because connect geostrategic goals. I think that the decision to recognize the candidate status to Georgia, Moldavia, and Ukraine is a way to protect, to support in some way. Is a geostrategic decision to support and to cover in some way these states' respect to the Russian influence. But the problem is real, because within these states we have regions that are populated by Russian people. So it's not easy to find a balance at the moment. I think that the policy of the European Union was towards inclusion, but inclusion does not mean that they become full members. Okay, as I can say, as I support you, I help you into economic, because the first problem is economic, because the main problem will be the reconstruction of Ukraine. But there are similar problems also in Georgia as well as in Moldova. So I think that the choice was to how can I say, open, and above all to say, we are here, we support you, we will help you, and we start your procedure, your process, but and so towards the inclusion. But this does not mean that they will become full member. We do not know at the moment that will be. Yes.
No, I fully agree with that. Even earlier, you mentioned that the reason Turkey is not, well, you mentioned the reason that the EU has to be capable to accept the country. And that's one of the justifications for why Turkey has not acceded to the EU. But given a tendency for the EU to expand its influence in the East and not really doing anything has essentially damaged these countries, as we've seen with Euromaidan and in Ukraine, and then the annexation of Crimea. And it's the whole situation in Ukraine started with the association agreement, and it's why Armenia did not accept an association agreement. But the EU does. I believe the EU does not, as you said it yourself, does not really intend to accept these countries. And will they really be safe, or will they actually just have more problems with Russia because of the geopolitical implications by the EU? Thank you.
Thank you to you for your question. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I want to talk about Georgia. I'm Georgian, and we know that we have territories, and mainly two regions, Calcia and Sanachalo.
Yes.
We do not have de facto control over. So let's say that European Union accepts us into the Union. What happens then to those territories? I mean, what kind of policies do we have to have, or how can we help us to, I don't know?
Okay, I can ask. Usually in the international law, we use the previous case. We have Chypre. In European Union, we have Chypre that is divided, no? So, but I can say that there is a mission, a EU mission that in Georgia as well as in Moldova concerning. So I think that is, and if you look at documents of your Commission, European Council, this situation is resolved, as well as with the other region of Moldova, yeah, this is the state. And I know that there are some EU mission of Europe, for example, foreign and security policy. But this situation, how can I say, must be normalized in some way. I know that these two regions are under the control of Russia, and probably some international agreement must be, how can I say, yes, it must be regulate this situation. And I think it's a really important concerning the European Union, because we have an article 47, quello sull'mutuo intervento, the aggression, concerning the aggression, concerning the political. So that is one state, one member state is attacked. All the member states must support. So I think we have to. All the situation must be stabilized. So I think with concern to Ukraine, the hand of the world. With concern the other region, I think that some international agreement must be regulated this situation, such as for Greece and North Macedonia. There was a Pacific, how can I say, not a friendly dispute, but there was an agreement. And also because Greece stopped also the admission of the United Nations, the North Macedonia to United Nations. And the North Macedonia submit an application, asked for an opinion to submit the case to the International Court of Justice, and the International Court of Justice established that the Greece violate this agreement. So we have instruments in international law to guarantee. The problem is that international law, international legal order is not like a national legal order. In national legal order, you have the three different powers: legislative, executive, and judiciary. So you can say that your right can be respected. In the case of international law, if one state does not agree, the situation can degenerate in some way. But I strongly believe in legality of international relationship, and so I think that international agreement can be resolved in some way. But I think that it's important to regulate this situation before any admission. But I think it's not impossible because we have the previous case of the Cyprus.
Yes, so if that's those conflicts that have been solved. I don't know if that's possible. We are kind of losing the hope that those international agreement will be in place because really our opposition is Russia and not our region. And we also won a case on Aristotle a few months ago. Jordan case, and I believe it was some war points, mainly in Central region. But anyways, we still didn't get any tangible thing to hold Russian.
I imagine, but you have to consider that transition process are very slow. So you have to, how can I say, you have to work in this direction. But and in this sense, I believe that the openness of European Union is a good idea to help to support you. So I believe that is a way to establish an unset relationship. But the situation before in the last period we live a lot of strange situations. The war in COVID, then the war in Ukraine, then the war in Gaza. So a lot of situations. So how can I say, we have to work and above all, I strongly believe in the change of the political power. So we have to work. We have to the fall of the Union, Soviet Union, was due to the Gorbachev. So how can I say, we have to also to imagine the possibility that changing the political power change also in national, because international system is the basis of national legal system. And so we have to also imagine this possibility. So I think that the openness of the European Union is a way to work in order to work together. But do you have another question? Because I no, okay. No, I saw your okay. Do you have any? Okay, time. The professor. I hope that you. Sorry, because my presentation was not finished. No, the last. Scusatemi, the last. No, sorry. Scusi, scusate, è solo questo e chiudiamo. Aspetta, che ho fatto?
Quella sua.
Aspetta. Questa? Ah, questa. Perché non avevo finito. Sorry. Okay. This is my, because I love joking, and this is my contact if you want. This is my module, my monitor, and my contact. If you want, you can follow me. Me, not me, my group. Okay, thank you very much for listening. See you.